We watched the sky for a century, and the stars forgot us.
That exact phrase. I read it in the file for the lost mission. How?
Dr. Catherine Lang froze. Around her, the Kailari knelt, and the High Priestess continued.
The pale gods came from the silent sea, and they taught us the way of the fields.
Pale gods. Another match. This is not folklore. This is a direct transmission.
Doctor, that cadence. Those phrases, they match the old Earth mission logs.
Not here. Find an excuse. We end this ceremony early.
The ceremony concluded. Catherine cited a need for data review and retreated with her team.
If the lost mission is their origin story, Earth needs to know.
The survey of a forgotten world had just become something far more dangerous.
Voice of Maria. The words you spoke, they echo something from our own past. May we see your sacred source?
Come, the shrine holds what the pale gods left for the faithful. You will understand why we wait.
Maria led them into the low earthen shrine, where candlelight flickered across clay shelves and woven tapestries.
This jar holds their words, sealed since the time of my grandmother's grandmother. The promise made stone.
That seal impression, it's a human handprint. Pressed into wax 4 centuries ago. We have instruments that can read inside without breaking the seal. May we examine it?
If you do not harm the words, look. The pale gods would not forbid seekers of truth.
Dr. Chen passed a portable scanner over the jar. Data streamed onto her screen, dense, complex, and undeniably human in origin.
Doctor, the clay is local, but the seal wax is synthetic, Earth manufactured. Carbon dating confirms over 400 years.
This jar was left by our people. I need to bring this to Reyes. We can't open it without command authority.
An hour later, aboard the Concorde survey ship, Catherine and Dr. Chen walked into Commander Reyes's compact command center.
Commander, we need to talk. The Kailari prophecies are not mythology. They match a lost Earth mission.
A first contact cult. Dr. Lang, we've seen cargo cults before. They mirror what they don't understand.
This is different, Ilara. Show him the linguistic analysis.
The syntax, the phonemes, they're a direct match to the logs of the ISS Endeavour, lost 400 years ago. It's verbatim.
Reyes studied the waveforms on her screen, his skepticism hardening into something else.
The Endeavour logs are classified. How did you access them, Doctor?
I have clearance, and right now, that's not the point. There's a physical jar down there with a human handprint seal.
A jar. Until we can analyze it properly, we treat this as a potential contamination event. I'll send a preliminary report, but I am downplaying the cult angle.
Downplaying it, but at least Concorde will know, and maybe someone will answer.
For 3 days, and no response, Catherine returned to the village each morning, hoping for answers.
Nothing changes. The Kailari only recite the same verses. The truth stays sealed in that jar.
On the 4th morning, her communicator burst to life with an emergency override.
Lang, get back to the ship now. An unscheduled contact just entered the system.
A contact. Did Concorde finally answer our report?
Not Concorde. The IFF is old Earth, pre-Concorde. The vessel itself is ancient.
The views screen displayed a small, scarred ship from another era, thrusters barely holding on. Catherine arrived on the bridge as alarms blared. The relic was descending toward the village.
It's heading straight for the landing zone. No authorization. What is this?
400 years. That ship came because of our report. Earth never forgot.
The bridge speakers crackled, and a grainy hologram flickered to life.
This is Captain Stephen Marcia of the Earth vessel Promise Keeper. We request immediate landing clearance at the coordinates of the Kailari settlement.
Promise Keeper? That name isn't in any current registry. On whose authority do you fly?
Authority granted by the Terran Continuity Council under Protocol 7 of the First Contact Accords, dated 2087.
Commander, Protocol 7 covers lost colonies. You have to let them land.
I know my regulations, Doctor, but this is highly irregular. We're in Concorde space.
Reyes, that ship is 4 centuries old. They've come all this way. You can't refuse.
Granted. Captain, you are cleared to land, but I want it on record that this is under protest.
I'll be at the landing site. Whatever he carries, I need to see it firsthand. Protocol 7. That ship didn't just receive our report. It was already waiting. I need to see this with my own eyes, not through a monitor.
The ancient shuttle pierced the atmosphere, trailing smoke and fire, a relic returning home.
He comes alone. No escort. What kind of mission is this?
It touched down in a clearing scarred by old engines, dust clouds rolling through the grass. Kaelari streamed from their huts, clutching tools and children, drawn by the noise from the sky. The ramp touched dirt. A massive silhouette emerged, 2.5 meters of black armor, skull helm catching the sun. He walked alone toward the wooden gate, each step deliberate. The villagers parting in silence.
They're not running. They're waiting, like they expected this.
At the gate, the first rows of Kaelari dropped to their knees, not in worship, but in something older.
He stops, as if asking permission. Who asks a cult for permission?
The armored figure reached up, and with a hiss of releasing seals, the skull helm lifted away.
Human, but his face carries 400 years of weight. Not a god at all.
You have returned. The promise is true. Welcome, brother.
She did not kneel. She walked forward, small and ancient, calling him brother in the tongue the pale gods taught.
Voice of Maria, your grandmother spoke of you. The journal carries her words. I have come to keep a promise.
Brother, not God. They've been waiting for family, not for worship.
Stephen knelt fully, and the old priestess placed her hands on his cheeks, tracing the lines of human age.
You are so tall, just like in the stories, but your eyes hold the same sorrow.
400 years is a long time to carry a promise. Forgive us our lateness.
He apologizes. 400 years, and he says, sorry. This changes everything.
Catherine stepped from the shadow of a hut, and Stephen's gaze found her. A nod invited her forward.
You are the survey team's anthropologist. I carry documentation you will want to examine.
From a cylinder case at his belt, he drew a rolled parchment, yellowed and tied with faded ribbon.
The shrine holds its twin. The pale gods left one with us and took the other to the stars.
He unrolled the treaty with reverence, the crisp paper crackling in the morning quiet. It read, in elegant cursive, if the descendants survive, Earth will return for them, no matter the cost, no matter the time.
A treaty, signed by the original mission commander. This is legally binding even now?
It is. The Promise Keeper was built for this day. We have waited 4 centuries to fulfill it.
Not a myth, not folklore. A contract signed 400 years ago, and someone remembered.
In the village square, 4 centuries of waiting folded around them like the morning mist.
The treaty must meet its twin. Voice of Maria, will you bring the jar from the shrine?
Maria inclined her head and turned toward the low entrance. Catherine and Stephen followed in silence. She emerged moments later, the clay jar cradled in her forearms like a living thing. Stephen took it, his gauntleted hands almost swallowing the ancient vessel. He held it like glass. With a chisel from his belt, he cracked the wax seal. The sound echoed in the still air. He lifted out a small leather-bound journal, its cover cracked but intact, tied with a leather thong. He opened it. The handwriting inside belonged to Captain Miriam Kale, her script known from deep archives.
His face changed. A man meeting ghosts on paper. He's seen a ghost.
Voice of Maria, I asked to read this aloud at the gathering tonight. Your people should hear the words.
The circle will gather. The promise will be spoken, as it was always meant to be.
As dusk fell, the entire village gathered around a roaring bonfire. Stephen stood at the center, journal open.
We were never a colony. The Endeavor was a research vessel, surveying this system. We crashed. Only 5 of us survived the impact. The others we buried on the mountain slope.
A hush fell. The pale gods were not divine. They were shipwrecked scientists.
We lived among you, We taught you farming, medicine, how to survive the great dryness. Knowing we would die here, we wrote this promise for whoever came after. If our people ever find you, they will come. They will be late. They will bring you home.
Maria's shoulders shook. Tears marked her fur, but her dark eyes held fierce understanding.
All 5 of us died of age or illness. In the valley you hold sacred, our graves are there.
He closed the journal. The fire crackled. The promise was known. Now came the answer. Stephen looked up from the journal, his voice steady despite the flame-lit faces waiting.
Earth offers full citizenship in place. You are not a lost colony to extract. You are family, recognized.
Confusion rippled through the crowd. They had waited for a return, not a status.
In place. He's giving them the stars without taking their soil. This is honoring their home.
We never wanted to leave. The Pale God's promise was to come home to us, not take ours. I ask only this. Let me carve a new line into the shrine wall, so the promise never dies.
Carve it, voice of Maria. This night is the answer to your prayers.
The request shifted the ritual, no longer waiting, but recording fulfillment.
She's adding to the prophecy. 400 years later, and the story still grows.
The fire leaped as if in approval, sparks carrying the promise into the star-filled sky. At dawn, Maria knelt before the shrine wall, a chisel held in 2 of her 4 hands. Stephen stood behind, lantern casting a steady glow. The first strike of metal on stone echoed through the silent village, a sound of a promise becoming permanent.
And he came, and he was kind, and he kept his word.
Let the stone carry your voice, voice of Maria.
The Kaelari watched, barely breathing, as each character was etched into the rock. The fresh script stood pale and sharp, dust settling in its grooves like ancient ash.
4 centuries of oral tradition. Now it's carved in stone. This is what history looks like.
When the last mark was complete, Maria lowered her tools. Stephen bowed his head in silence.
It is finished. Now the promise has its end and its beginning.
The sun rose, its first ray striking the new line, igniting it with gold. The stones spoke now. Catherine found a quiet spot under a torch, her datapad casting a soft glow. She began her official log.
Log entry 47. The Kaelari promise is fulfilled. Citizenship granted. The new prophecy line is carved.
Across the light years, Concord's archives hummed with new data. The Kaelari language file appeared, tagged and alive.
This was never a discovery of dead relics. It was a lesson in what it means to remember.
A holographic entry bloomed, Kaelari language, added by Dr. C. Lang, 2475, a living tongue now part of humanity.
My report will be clinical, but the truth is emotional. Promise-keeping is bigger than science.
The transmission compressed and fired, carrying the official record into the deep net of human knowledge.
I was a witness. That is more than an anthropologist usually gets to be.
Somewhere in a distant server, the planet's designation changed, from uncontacted to human enclave.
They are no longer lost. They are found. And we kept our word.
That night, Stephen shed his armor and ate with the Kaelari under the fading embers, trading quiet memories of Earth.
At dawn, I will leave. The Promise Keeper is ready, and Earth waits for my word.
You leave us not as a god, but as kin. That is more than the prophecies promised.
The village slept beneath a star-shattered sky, the shrine's new line seeming to hold its breath. Dawn came, and the shuttle ramp lowered. Stephen, in light armor, shook hands with a Kaelari elder.
You'll transmit the final acceptance from orbit, Captain.
Yes, the Kaelari are now inscribed in every human archive. The promise is met.
Maria pressed a woven bracelet into Stephen's palm, then tied it around his armored wrist.
This cord carries our gratitude. Let it remind your people that promises are not broken.
The shuttle rose on a pillar of dust. The Kaelari raised all 4 arms, no longer waiting, but at peace. The promise was kept. As the shuttle faded to a speck, Voice of Maria turned to her people. Staff raised, the new line bright on her lips.
And he came, and he was kind, and he kept his word.
The words fell into silence, then rose again as a murmur through the crowd. First a few, then many, began to repeat the phrase, testing its weight on their tongues.
She's giving them a new verse. Not a God's order, but a family memory.
Children lisped the words. Elders wept. The prophecy had grown.
This is how myths are made, not from lies, but from truths that matter.
The chant spread. A soft rhythm carried on the mountain wind.
She closed her datapad. For once, the record could wait.
The stone had told them. Now they told each other. Later, aboard the Concorde ship, Catherine sat before a holographic console. The official record awaited its final entry.
Final log, Dr. Catherine Lang. Mission objective achieved. The Kaelari are now a recognized human enclave. The 400-year promise has been kept. Earth returned not to extract, but to welcome. The stars don't feel cold anymore. They feel like home. I append here the words of Captain Miriam Kale. If our people ever find you, they will come. They will be late. They will bring you home. We were late, but we came. Log end.
The screen blinked, filing the report into history. Catherine leaned back, the quiet hum of the ship the only sound.
It's not the science that matters most. It's the keeping of the word.
She shut off the datapad, the glow fading from her face, leaving only the soft starlight from the viewport.
And I was there to see it.
Seasons passed. A prefab school hut rose near the old gate, and a human teacher came to stay. Under the broad tree, she showed them holograms of Earth, oceans, and cities spinning in the air. Kaelari and human children learned together, their voices mixing song and arithmetic beneath the thatched eaves. The shrine wall became a pilgrimage. Humans and Kaelari traveled far to read the new line. They touched the carved words, some in silence, others whispering the promise, like a sacred vow. Voice of Maria, bent with years but eyes still bright, would greet each visitor with the same gentle certainty. The new line never faded. Each dawn the sun struck it first, as if the light remembered. On Earth, the name Kaelari became a testament. Children in distant classrooms learned the story of the promise kept. Captain Stephen's woven bracelet found its home in the Terran Museum of Promises Kept, beside Miriam Kale's journal. And on the stone, the word stood forever. And he came, and he was kind, and he was kind, and he kept his word. But the story does not end with stone or archive. It lives in every generation that learns the word of a promise kept. 4 centuries was not a delay. It was the weight of a civilization proving that its word means something. They came, they were late, they made them family. That is what it means to be human, not conquering, not colonizing, just remembering, and keeping a promise to a people who never stopped believing. And he came, and he was kind, and he kept his word. It is no longer only prophecy, it is history. And wherever humans reach, wherever we are tested, that line will answer, are we a promise-keeping species? Yes, the Kaelari will teach this to their children and their children after. And somewhere out there, aboard the Promise Keeper, a captain wears a woven bracelet and knows no one was forgotten, no one was left behind. The promise was kept. Silence, dawn, the stone, forever. In the long arc of human history, promises are made. Most dissolve with the century, but on this world, the sun rises each day on stone that did not forget. The Kaelari know what it is to wait, and now they know what it is to be found. The line remains. And he came, and he was kind, and he kept his word. It is carved not only in rock, but into the conscience of a species. A promise once made is a debt to the universe. And humans, for all their flaws, pay their debts. 400 years was a heartbeat to the mountains, to the waiting and eternity. And still we came. No one was forgotten. No one was left behind. The promise was kept. The stone waits. The sun rises. The story never ends. Fade to black, and somewhere in the silent sweep of stars, the Promise Keeper cruised home, its log complete, its name fulfilled. The bracelet tied to the captain's wrist caught the faint cabin light, a woven thread connecting two worlds. He did not speak of it. The mission was classified, but the truth was not. It was written in every stroke of that morning's carving, and on Kalar, the fires of the evening ritual now carried an extra spark, the story of the pale gods who were not gods and the brother who came back. Voice of Maria, sitting among the young, would begin the tale with the oldest words and end with the newest.
We watched the sky for a century, and the stars remembered us.
The children would repeat it, and in their lisping voices, the promise renewed, and on the stone, the words stood forever, not as a monument to greatness, but as proof of the simple, hardest thing, staying true. Fade to black. The story does not end, only the telling pauses, until the next voice takes up the promise. Decades turned to centuries, but the carved line never faded. Rain and sun only deepened its hold on the rock. The story passed from voice to voice, a living thread stitching together generations of the faithful. And when a child asked why they still tended the flame, the answer was always the same, always certain, because once, a very long time ago, someone made a promise, and someone else came across the stars to keep it. Not from guilt or duty, but because that is what a promise is supposed to mean. That is what it means to be human. The universe is full of broken words, shattered treaties, forgotten oaths. But here, on this world, the word held. And as long as the stone stands against the wind and the rain, the word will hold, until the mountains themselves wear down to dust and the stars burn cold. The stone will wait. The promise was kept. It is being kept. It will be kept. Now rest. The telling is done. The promise remains, and the sun will rise again. And now, wherever you are, you have heard it. The story of the pale gods, the waiting, and the captain who kept the faith. Carry it with you, not as a burden, but as a quiet reminder that a promise can outlast an empire. The stone still stands. The mountains are patient. The dawn will come again on Kalar, and the line will greet it. And somewhere, a child asks, and an elder answers, and the old tale begins anew, stitched with fresh voices. That is the real return. Not a ship, but a story that refuses to end, burning in the hearth of a people. The narrative contract is fulfilled. The promise was kept. The word is true, and we are all better for it. Now, let the silence hold what words cannot. Let the space between the stars echo with it. Look up. The stars are full of promises. Some are kept, some are waiting, some are still being written. And on one small world, the sun touches the ancient stone, and the carved letters glow with remembered fire, and the promise sings in the light, always.